Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again. Here to bring you another video. This video is going to be doing a breakdown comparison between the Rick Grimes from the Walking Dead comic book series and Rick Grimes from the TV series. Now, this video has been requested by a few different people over time, just viewers, subscribers to my channel, wondering my thoughts on, who would win type of situation, and also just kind of comparing the differences between the characters, giving my thoughts on which I like better. So for those of you guys who watch the television series that have not read the comic book series up to current date, I'll try not to spoil too much, but if you intend on reading the comic book series and have not yet, I may spoil a few events that occur within it, but you probably are, if you're a bigger fan, you probably already know about, all the events that happened to Rick in the comic book series. Now, what's the point, or what's the reason for doing a comparison? Well, the reason in this situation is because the Rick in both series is almost completely different. I mean, his background is the same. A family man, cop of modest means with Lori and Carl, and then the baby, of course. But the events that happen to him and occur to him in the series, comic book, and TV make him very different. I mean, very different. If we're comparing the Rick at the end of season 3 television series to the Rick in the comic book series at current date issue, what are we at, like 108 or something like that? Yeah, I think it was 108 I reviewed last. The character's just completely different at this point. I mean, physically he's different too. You've got the television series Rick that is still 100% in terms of physical prowess, or even better than he was when he was a cop. The Rick in the comic book series, of course, is missing his right hand, obviously. So, obviously, that's going to come into play when you're comparing, which one would win in a versus matchup. Now, I will say that even though the Rick in the comic book series is missing his hand, he is much more tested than the Rick in the television series. Just over time, all the things that have happened to him. He's been through a lot more character deaths in his group. He's been through a lot more hardship than the television series Rick, even though he has as well. However, he just has fought more. He's got more experience, probably a better hand-to-hand fighter at this point. Probably would be a better shot if he'd have that hand. Probably better with an axe and better with killing walkers up close, even though he only has his left hand. But it definitely is going to, be a huge factor when you're talking about a versus matchup, okay, between the two and which one would win when one doesn't have his right hand. Obviously, he's not going to be able to shoot rifles. He's not going to be that good. I mean, he can shoot with his left hand, with his revolver, but I tend to think that he probably would be better off with both for any kind of shooting, fighting, anything like that. So even though he's got more experience, he's more tested, and he's fought more against different people, he's bitten people and all this kind of stuff against Negan and those scumbags that they met with the triplets or whatever on the highway there in I forget which trade it was. After they leave, before they find the Alexandria safe zone in the comic book series, and he did all of that. I still think in a versus matchup, the TV series Rick would win because he's got both hands. He doesn't have as much experience, so he's not as hardened. But at the same time, it's kind of like you see this a lot in mixed martial arts and real fighting, is that over time, fighters do gain more experience, but if physically their body slows down, or if they have trouble with certain things, obviously losing your hand is one of those, they tend to get beat a lot of times by younger guys that maybe not even be as technically good as them or have as much experience or, have the know-how, but physically they just don't have it anymore, or they can't really compete. Missing a hand obviously is going to affect that. So very simply, if this is a who would win matchup, then Rick from the TV series is going to take it. In terms of character comparisons, I tend to think the Rick in the comic book series is colder than Rick in the television series, even though Rick in the TV series is not really open and accepting to new people coming into the group and all of that. Especially we got to see that in season 3 near, with Tyrese's group and all of that. And he on the highway in Clear, for example, when they were, not highway, but when they were just driving down and the random stranger guy wants him to pick him up, he also just keeps driving. So we're starting to see that sort of evolution into that state that he's in now, where he completely doesn't trust anybody and will not allow people to just walk in and join his group without first being, detained and questioned and all these things to find out who they are first, if he even bothers to allow them to join. So definitely more hardened, definitely more cruel to people that are not a part of his group. And I mean, in other differences, I guess you could say that he's just kind of um, found a place, whereas the Rick in the TV series hasn't really yet. I mean, he has with the prison. He's trying to defend the group, but he hasn't really found his meaning for what this is all for. Whereas in the comic book series, you kind of feel like Rick has found meaning in his life and seems to want to continue to live and is not really broken down at this point anymore, whereas he used to be, which we haven't seen occur yet in the TV series. Plus, the Rick in the TV series seems to be a bit more crazy than the comic book series version. The whole thing with Lori and all of that and everything, that was more sort of elaborated on than it was in the comic book series. So he does seem like he's kind of a little more off the handle a little bit. And also I would say with regards to the governor and the Michonne situation that's going on right now, I would say that he's kind of more cruel in that situation, I guess, because, well, we're going to see tonight what happens with that, but it does seem like he's going to try to make a trade, where in the comic book series, I don't know if he would do that. I guess it's kind of hard to say, but we also don't know if he's going to do it in the TV series for sure either way, so can't really comment on that too much. But in comparison between the two, which one do I like better? It's kind of hard to say because the Rick in the TV series hasn't been around for as long, hasn't been through as many things. Andrew Lincoln does do a great job of portraying him in the TV series, but I think I'd have to go with the comic book series Rick just because of the events of where he's at. By the time the TV series gets to around the same point, season 6, 7, or 8, that'll probably change. I'll probably like the TV series Rick better. But at this point, I like the comic book series Rick better, even though I can see the TV series version is probably more dangerous and tougher, or better at fighting overall. Maybe not tougher is not the right word, but would be worse to fight against and would win in a versus matchup. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the two. Very excited for tonight. Can't wait for tonight's episode. And that's pretty much all I got to say for this one, guys. It's Trev. Saying peace.